and welcome to the Habits and Home Show. I'm your host, Lisa Lazat, and I help busy moms bring order to their homes by downsizing and decluttering and ditching old habits in exchange for systems that bring peace and more enjoyment to their lives. If you're a mom trying to show the love of Jesus to your family, but the clutter in your home keeps you overwhelmed and frustrated, you have come to the right place. On this podcast, you will hear easy step-by-step tips to declutter and create systems so you can keep your home organized and finally walk in the peace God has promised you. Need some accountability? I've got you covered there too. Join the Accountability Club, a community of like-minded mamas decluttering and systemizing our homes together. Are you ready, friend? Let's get started. Hey friends, and welcome to the show. There have been so many times that I've been on a call with one of my clients and we're in the middle of talking and we get on some kind of topic and I think, wow, I wish we would have recorded that because it was so good. I truly believe where the scripture says, where two or more are gathered in my name, I am there in the midst, meaning God is there in the midst. And when I get on calls with my clients, which is something I love so much more than sitting here recording a podcast by myself, I really believe that God is right there in the midst. And so sometimes it's really hard for me to record these podcasts because I thrive off of interaction with people. I feel like the wisdom that God imparts in us to share with others just flows so much more effortlessly than me sitting here behind a microphone. So anyway, the other day I was on a call with one of my clients. Her name is Christina and she lives in Europe. She is an expat and she has been with me probably a year now. She's been taking the process very slow. We've been working through her home and somehow we got on the topic of transformation. And she has gone through a transformation process. It has been so beautiful to watch. The other day, her husband even mentioned, you just seem different. You just seem peaceful. And it's nothing that in the beginning you can, sometimes it's hard to get your spouse on board, especially if it's not important to them. And they might not understand. They don't understand why you need a decluttering coach and why you just can't gather it all up and get rid of it like they can. They might not understand that. But one thing that Christina told me a couple of weeks ago is she has enjoyed having this space between our coaching calls to be able to talk through some things that are important to her. So I want to hold that space for you. If this is something that's important to you, learning how to manage your home, really getting clarity over what that looks like and how to feel like you're doing it well, then I want to be that for you. So going back to what her husband said, you just seem peaceful. And so that brought to mind this whole topic of how decluttering from the outside in can provide us with a much more peaceful mindset, disposition, life, all of it. So I did a deep dive into some scripture that just came to mind in James 2:17, and it says, faith without works is dead. And so I just kind of want to read that to you. If you are working in your home, I always encourage you to use this time together to do something productive in your home. But at the same time, if you want to sit down with a cup of coffee and listen while you read this scripture with me, and then after you do, get up and go do something, you can do that as well. So we're going to read out of James 2, chapter 2. I'm going to start in verse 14, and I'm going to read to the end of the chapter. So it starts out in this chapter talking about faith and works, and we're going to see what we get out of it. All right, chapter 14. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can his faith save him? If a brother or sister is without clothes and lacks daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, keep warm, and eat well, but you don't give him what the body needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith, if it doesn't have works, is dead by itself. But someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without works, and I will show you my faith by my works. You believe that God is one. You do well. The demons also believe, and they shudder. Foolish man, are you willing to learn that faith without works is useless? Wasn't Abraham, our father, justified by works when he offered Isaac, his son, on the altar? You see that faith was active together with his works, and by works, faith was perfected. So the scripture was fulfilled that says, Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him for righteousness, and he was called God's friend. You see that a man is justified by works and not by faith alone. And in the same way, wasn't Rahab the prostitute also justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out by a different route? For just as the body without the spirit is dead, so also faith without works is dead. All right, so there are a couple of things that I got out of that scripture, mainly the one where it says faith without works. And this scripture in James gave us a couple of examples of how people in the Bible had both the faith and the works. And so there were 5 things that when I was studying the scripture that I got out of it that I want to share with you, related to this whole idea of decluttering from the outside in. So if we want to change on the inside, we can start on the outside, and it tends to be a little easier because decluttering is something we can control a lot easier than controlling our mindset. Sometimes our flesh fights. We fight with our spirit, fights with our flesh. And that's why Paul said, why do I do the things that I don't want to do and I don't do the things that I want to do? It's because our flesh is at war with our spirit, and our spirit, God is speaking to our spirit and leading our spirit, and our spirit, just like a father wants to lead his son and a mother wants to lead her daughter, that spirit is leading us to do good things. And the flesh we can identify as the child side of us. It wants to fight against the parent side of us that is drawing us to do good things. And so we have this ongoing war of our flesh and of our spirit, the things that want us to do good things for ourselves, and the things that hold us back. The whole idea of getting started with something you can control, because it's hard to just become a different person overnight. It's hard to completely overhaul your mindset and to think different thoughts and to have different habits. It's really hard. And so that's why I always trying to talk about decluttering, because it is something tangible that we can do. It's kind of like the back door to our spirit man. It's the back door that nobody ever wants to focus on, right? Focusing on growing spiritually is not always fun, right? It's like boring. And it's, it's just with our day and age, we struggle with focus, right? And so it's hard to do something that is not as fun, as attractive. It's hard, right? But it's really attractive to declutter. I mean, for some people it's not, but you're here for a reason, because it sounds attractive to you and you're enticed to declutter. You're thinking, oh, maybe this is the answer. And it is. It's just not the end result answer that, you're probably not thinking about, and you don't expect it to happen. You are not coming to listen to this podcast or any other podcast or any other decluttering help thinking, oh, I want to grow spiritually. But that is the side effect, right? It's what you're not even expecting. You are essentially taking the medicine, the decluttering protocol to declutter your home. But the side effect, the positive side effect, is that you're decluttering your mind and your soul and your spirit, and in return, gaining peace. All right, so I'm going to share with you 5 things that I got out of this scripture that we can apply directly to our life and this process of decluttering. And hopefully it'll bring some motivation to you, right? All right, now by this time, hopefully you are getting up and doing something around your home. Hopefully you're getting something done while you're listening. All right, so number 1, decluttering is a physical expression of our inner faith. Decluttering might not look like a spiritual act on the surface. Like I've already said, it might not. You're not doing things like praying, you're not reading scripture, you're not journaling deep reflections, you're just clearing off table. It is a spiritual thing because it's action, and faith needs action, just like we read in James. So let me put it this way. Every time you walk past that basket of random stuff that's sitting at the bottom of the stairs, something happens inside of you. You probably feel frustration like I do with my boys. You might feel guilt. You might feel resentment. You might feel shame. Maybe it's something that you have to put away. Maybe it's been there for days or weeks, and each time you walk past it, you think, I need to deal with that stuff. But then what happens? Dinner needs to be cooked, or the kids are melting down, or you just are too mentally exhausted to deal with one more thing. So that basket becomes more than just a pile. It becomes a reminder of everything that feels out of control. But the day you finally stop, you finally pick it up and you sort it out and you decide what stays and what goes, that moment right there isn't just about tidying up. It's a small, faithful step forward. And you're probably not thinking, oh, I'm being a faithful person. No, but when you finally do the thing that you're supposed to do, it is a faithful step forward. Essentially, what you're saying is, oh, God, I want peace. And even though it feels small, even though just dealing with this one basket that has been sitting here forever, even though that feels small, I'm going to do something about it today. You're putting action to your desire for a calmer home and a more grounded heart. Maybe you've been praying for more patience lately. You've been asking God to help you stop snapping at your kids. You've been wishing your mornings didn't feel so chaotic. Those things don't magically change overnight. Those things are actually connected to the environment around you. And when your space is filled with clutter, your brain is constantly scanning and constantly processing and constantly working overtime, even when you don't realize it. Decluttering doesn't fix everything, but it does remove a barrier. And when you remove barriers, you make room for the fruit of the Spirit to show up in your life. Things like peace, patience, and self-control. Y'all, that is all spiritually connected right there. When we clear the clutter, we give room for the fruit of the Spirit to show up in our home. The second thing that I got out of this scripture when I was studying is action builds belief, not the other way around. Not belief builds our action. Action builds our belief. We tend to think that belief comes first, that we have to feel confident or motivated before we can take a step. But that's rarely how change actually works, especially for us overwhelmed and possibly ADHD moms. If you're waiting to feel ready before you start decluttering or getting your home in order, I want to gently challenge that thought. You don't have to wait until you feel like it. You don't have to wait for a random burst of motivation, a perfectly quiet house, or a wide open weekend. Those moments are actually rare, and if you're a mom, they're probably not showing up anytime soon. Here's the truth. Most of the time, action comes first, and then our beliefs follow. So you take a step, you see a little progress, you get a small win, and that's what gives you the energy to keep going. That's what builds belief. Remember, James 2:17 says, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. It doesn't say, once you have all the belief and vision and confidence, Then you take action. It says act with your faith. That means doing the thing before it feels natural, before it feels easy, before you have the whole plan laid out. That's real faith. Not a Pinterest perfect home makeover in a weekend, but a quiet, faithful decision to take a small step. So if you're in that place, you're feeling frozen, discouraged, or feel like your house has just gone too far, I want you to start small. Like really, really small. Something like emptying out your trash from your purse or your diaper bag, clearing off your kitchen counter and putting things away that don't belong there. Or just simply picking up the clothes on your bedroom floor and deciding if they're clean or dirty. Those are all very, very small steps. All right, number 3, obedience in the small leads to transformation in the big. Sometimes we get caught up in thinking that transformation has to be big and dramatic. We are always seeking the before and after reveals, right? We imagine total home makeovers, perfectly organized systems, or waking up one day and suddenly motivated to keep everything spotless. I'm still working on that. But more often than not, real change starts in quiet, ordinary moments, the kind that no one sees and no one is applauding, the kind that seems small and sometimes even invisible. Obedience in the small things is where transformation begins. Maybe that means choosing to empty one junk drawer instead of doom scrolling on your phone. Not because the drawer is the most important thing in your house, but because you're learning to show up differently. Maybe it's folding and putting away the clean laundry instead of piling it on the couch again. Not because the laundry is exciting, but because your future self will be grateful for the margin it creates. Even throwing away broken toys, donating unused kitchen gadgets, and finally letting go of clothes that don't fit, those small acts of obedience matter. They might not seem spiritual at the time, but they absolutely are. Because when you start to take action in those small areas of your home, you're actually practicing faith. You're saying, God, I trust that peace is possible, and I'm going to do my part. And when you do your part, even in the little things, God shows up in the ways you may not expect. Obedience in the small creates a ripple effect. As your space becomes clearer, you may find that your thoughts do too. You're not snapping at your kids as much. I know I'm not as much. You're getting out the door a little sooner. You're not searching for lost permission slips or getting overwhelmed every time you open the pantry. And it's not just about the external stuff. It's about who you're becoming in this process. You're becoming more patient, more intentional. You're becoming more grounded. And that's what all of this is really about. And you may not realize it because you come here just to simplify your stuff or to declutter or to hear that one thing that's going to finally get you to take action. Truly, ultimately, is you are changing as a person. Decluttering might look like sorting through stuff, but it's actually shaping your heart. Number 4, decluttering is a practice of faith. It requires trust and letting go. Y'all, letting go is hard, not because you're indecisive or lazy or ungrateful, but because stuff carries meaning. Sometimes it carries a lot of meaning. You open a closet and you see bins of baby clothes, and it's not just the clothes and what's on the clothes, it's the dreams you had, the babies you rocked, and the uncertainty of whether your family is finally complete, right? You find a box of old journals or craft supplies or workout gear, and suddenly you're face to face with a version of yourself you miss or the one you are fantasizing about but never actually get to achieve. It's not just the stuff that you are dealing with. It's the memories, it's the identity, it's the hope that you had. And all of that is really hard, and I get it. That's why decluttering takes more than motivation. It takes faith. It requires you to pause and ask, what am I holding on to out of fear? What am I afraid of will happen if I let these things go? Maybe you're afraid that you'll have some regret, and that's a legitimate fear. And it's not something that you can necessarily protect yourself from. However, I do encourage you to welcome that emotion because it's going to grow you into a stronger person when you face these hard emotions. Here's the truth. When we hold on tightly to our past or the things that might be useful someday, we're often doing that out of a place of fear and not of faith. Decluttering becomes a spiritual practice when we say, God, I trust you more than I trust this stuff to make me feel secure. We start to believe that He can and He will provide what we need in the future. And if we truly need it again, like I've always said, He will make a way for us to acquire that item in the future again. Number 5, and the last one, as you declutter the outside, God will be working on the inside. We often start decluttering because we're sick of the mess. We're sick of stepping over toys. We're sick of picking up toys. We're sick of digging through piles of laundry. We feel like our home is a complete disaster. And we think it's just about getting rid of stuff, right? We think just tidying up so things will look better. But what we don't expect is what happens inside of us as we do the work. When you clear off a counter, you're not just making space on the surface, you're creating space in your mind. When you finally deal with the pile of laundry, which I need to go down and deal with my pile of laundry, or you organize your pantry, thankfully my pantry is organized, you're not just getting rid of things, you're reclaiming mental energy that was being drained by all the visual noise. And before you know it, after you do this process and do different rooms in your home, you're going to be able to take deeper breaths. You're going to be snapping at your kids and your spouse a lot less. You're going to be able to think clearer. You're going to feel lighter. And it's not just physically how you're going to feel. You're going to feel emotionally lighter as well. And that's not a coincidence, y'all. That is the fruit of faithfulness. Because decluttering isn't just a chore. It's a step of obedience. It's you saying, God, I believe there's a better way for my home and my life, and I'm willing to do my part to make room for it, okay? And God honors that. He sees you picking up the same toys for the 100th time. He sees you finally tackling your junk drawers that's been overwhelming you forever, right? And He sees the small, quiet, behind-the-scenes moments where you choose peace, even when perfection feels absolutely impossible. Those moments may not get you any kind of recognition or applause. Your kids might not notice. Your husband might not say anything, but God sees you. And He uses that steady obedience to do something deeper on the inside of you. He begins to soften your heart. He starts to renew your mind. He shifts your perspective from overwhelmed and reactive to peaceful and intentional. So I truly believe decluttering becomes our catalyst for internal transformation. It opens up space, not just in our homes, but in our spirit. And in that space, God is able to speak. He's able to comfort us. He's able to reveal things to us. He's also able to heal us. We have to give Him the opportunity to do so. And when we are clouding up our space, clouding up our homes, and clouding up our minds, it also hinders our spirit, and it makes no room for God to come in and work in us and transform us from the outside in. Okay? So if you're knee deep in the mess and you're wondering if it matters, it does. It absolutely does matter. And I hope that you use this as a catalyst to just take action, whatever that action looks like. And if it's hard to do it on your own, you don't have to do it on your own. And I've said this many times on my podcast, is that I love working with people. I love seeing you become lighter. You come and start coaching with me and you have all these heavy burdens, and we're called to bear each other's burdens. And if this is a burden that I can bear with you, I am honored to. Okay. So if that is something you're interested in, you can look at the links below and either schedule a coaching consultation with me to work with me one-on-one, or if you love a group setting and you want to hop inside the accountability club, we meet twice a month, every month, and we go through one room cover one topic each month. This month is our time management system, and we have already had our first call this past Tuesday. It was great, and everybody is excited to get their time management systems in place and to have time to practice them in a group setting with somebody to coach them along the way and to hold them accountable. You can find that link in the description below as well. All right, friends, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time on the Habits and Home Show. Hey friend, before you go, I wanted to tell you more about the Accountability Club. Each month, we'll tackle a new space in our homes and work together to declutter and set up systems so we can easily maintain order without getting overwhelmed. You'll get a new decluttering tutorial each month, the coaching and accountability you need to actually follow through, and encouragement without judgment from other Christian moms in a safe environment. And guess what? The entire club is off of social media, so you don't have to worry about distractions the world may throw at you. Sweet friend, if you're feeling stuck in your decluttering journey, this is the place for you. Click the link below to try out the Accountability Club and start decluttering today.